Hi, I'm Samantha Heil, Executive Director of Book Fair at Bel Air, and I'd love to invite you to one of the biggest bookish events in the region. Join us on Saturday, August 8th, 2026 from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at APG FCU Arena at Hartford Community College for a free, family-friendly event celebrating books, readers, and community. Book Fair at Bel Air features more than 110 authors and vendors, best-selling featured authors, kids' activities, face painting, story time, arts and crafts, photo ops, and plenty of fun for readers of all ages. Whether you're a lifelong reader, raising future bookworms, or just looking for a unique day out with the family, there's something for everyone at Book Fair at Bel Air. Learn more at www.bookfairatbelair.org or follow us on Instagram at Book Fair at Bel Air. We hope to see you there this August.
Coming to you from the Freedom Federal Credit Union Studios, Hartford County Living presents Conversations with Rich Bennett.
Slow pitch or fast pitch?
It's probably the least sexy part of the organizing. It's okay. No. The truth is...
Have you ever looked at your life and wondered if it's too late to chase that dream you've been carrying around for years? My guest today is proof that sometimes the best chapters of our lives haven't even been written yet. After building an impressive career as a playwright, filmmaker, professor, and mentor to countless actors and artists, Seth Panitch decided to take on an entirely new challenge in his 50s, writing his very first novel. What followed was Antique, a captivating story filled with mystery, history, art, hidden treasures, and a deeper exploration of how we determine value, worth, and purpose in our own lives. So joining me today is authorpreneur, playwright, filmmaker, theater professor, and now novelist, Seth Panitch. Seth, how's it going, man?
It's going great. Nice to see you, Rich.
Oh, you too. Look, I want to dig right into this because I love it when I get authors on that it's their first novel, usually like after retirement or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you in your 50s, I had another young lady on. She was in her 70s when she wrote her first book. We had another young lady on who is taking a break from writing because she needs to have eye surgery done or something like that. But yet she still has a trainer and she's still going to be writing, and she's 101.
Oh, wow. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
That's great.
So that means you got 50 some more years of writing to go to catch up.
Man, I am an infant, and I haven't retired from my Clark Kent job yet either. So
really?
No, I'm still teaching. Yeah, I'm still head of the MFA acting program at University of Alabama. So I have to sneak my writing during the school year. It's the summer now, so this is when I can write full time. But I have to do it in late afternoons and weekends.
Right.
And so, I really got to fight for my writing during the school year.
So what was it that triggered your mind and said, I want to write a novel?
Insanity, right? Clinical insanity. Yeah. Actually, Rich, it's something I always wanted to do when I was a kid.
Yeah.
One of my first loves was reading. Mm-hmm. And I used to love to just sit in my room and read because I felt transported by it. So I'd always had these dreams of one day being a writer, and I went into theater as a young kid. It actually straightened me out. I was a tough nut to crack for my teachers, and there was something about being in drama and in plays that really straightened me out, and my grades went from like not so great to I never got anything under a B+ after I started doing drama the rest of my life.
Wow.
And so I loved acting, but in college, of course, I said, I'm not going to be an actor. You can't make money in that. You can't be in theater the rest of your life, which is what I did. But I said I couldn't. So I went through like 50 different majors. And one of my minors was creative writing.
Okay.
And so I went into acting because I thought it would help my creative writing. The problem was that these doors kept opening for me, these beautiful golden doors. I went to the grad school, the grad school I wanted, my number one choice. I got into the Shakespeare festivals I wanted. I wrote a play, and that went to New York. Like 2 years after grad school, I was doing a play off-Broadway with Lily Turner, Rich, who founded the off-Broadway movement. She was 92 when she produced my play, my first play.
Wow.
And so she had started the Village Gate and the Village Cricket, and she knew everybody. And what I loved about her is that everybody was a schmuck. So she knew Hemingway, and he was a schmuck. And she knew this guy, and he was a schmuck. So she was like real old school New York theater. So it was like another grad school for me. And so these doors opened my whole life. And then when I wanted to teach, I got this great gig at Alabama, a fabulous gig. This university has been so supportive of me. It supported me to go act in any Shakespeare festival I want, put me up. They have helped to fund my films. They have helped to fund 5 off-Broadway plays for me. They have sent me down to Cuba 12 times to direct with the National Theater of Cuba. So again, the door's open. It was during COVID, Rich, where we all had a little bit of chance to just think, which I really didn't have. And I thought, God, there's a door that I never looked at that I always wanted to. And so I took about a year and read all the books I could on writing. And I also started, Rich, rereading books that I loved to ask myself, why am I drawn in? To trying to paint what that is, what that bell curve is. And then I wrote what I don't call my first novel, because I don't even know if it was a novel. It was a big, fat mess. And that taught me how to write antique. So you could say it's a long time coming, but on the other hand, everything I've done is why I think antique is successful. I'm using my life experience in it, which we all need to do as writers. I tell my actors that they're never going to grow the actor. They can grow technique in a class, but they can't grow the actor. They have to be outside of the building and not acting. I believe that you have to be outside of your art form to grow the person. And it could mean sailing around the world. It could be picking up a new hobby, or, whatever it is. And so I think all those things that I did help me, and certainly we can talk later about how I think acting and directing and writing and filmmaking has all informed the way that I write a book.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, but with Antique, what was it about this story that actually made you say, this one has to be a novel?
Yeah. I've always loved Antiques Roadshow. In fact, when I direct at the university, I'm teaching all day long, and then I have maybe 2 hours, and then I go back, back into the university, and then I direct from 6 to 10 every night. 6 nights a week. So it's a brutal schedule. Yeah. So I always used to take a nap between, say, like 4 and 6. And the only thing that could put me to sleep was Antiques Roadshow. Not because it's boring, but because it was so soothing to hear people really know what they're talking about. So I've always loved the show. I was watching this episode. It was actually a rerun of something from the late 90s or the early aughts, Rich. And you might have seen this episode. It's very famous. There's an older gentleman, and he's got this old beat-up rug. He thinks it's worth maybe a couple $100. And they tell him it's worth $500,000 because it's a Navajo chief's blanket. Yeah. And remember, he just starts crying hysterically, like these tears coming down his face. And what he kept repeating was, my grandparents, they were just poor farmers. And so what I realized is that he was saying not that the blanket was worth that much money, but that his family had that kind of worth. Yeah. And I thought, isn't it beautiful that we still have art forms and people that can do that for each other? And then I thought, isn't it sad that we need it? And so from there, I got the idea of antique, which is, how do we determine our worth? Is it how many thumbs up we get on social media? Right. Is it the amount of accolades that we receive? And that's something that I battle with as well, as someone that's won awards. Is that what I'm defined by? And if I don't win those, what does that mean about me? So I was going through the same thing in my early 50s, and that's where the idea came. Wow.
I love that show, Antiques Roadshow. Yeah. And the thing that gets me when you watch that show is just, I like to refer to it as art, the pieces that people bring in, and especially when you see some of the vases and all that. And all the handmade stuff. It's just,
it's beautiful.
Oh, it is.
And the history of it too, and then to hear about who had it in their family, and how these pieces, like you say, how these pieces crossed like Abraham Lincoln drank from that cup, and just to see that you really can touch back at history. And I'm sure archaeologists feel this way by holding something that some famous person held or some person that you admire held.
Yeah. And I think that's something that too many of us take for granted is history because, and I've said this before, even if you go somewhere, no matter where you go, just stand and reflect on where you're at and think about who else has been there. When you're looking at a piece of art, don't just look at, who created the art, but the history behind it, like the paints, the history behind the paints, how the paints were made, just everything. And look at all my wife thought I was crazy because she had this little figurine. And I think it was a deer or something. And I'm just holding it. I'm looking at it. She goes, I said, I'm just look at all the detail in this. Yeah. It's amazing.
The craft that goes into it. And it's interesting that you say that. I think we can also, Rich, extrapolate into, you're saying that people don't pay enough attention to history and what it can give you just by touching back at that. I think that's the issue, and it's the central issue of the book, of how our society looks at age. And I mean American society. Yeah. We do not respect age. That's why I put those two definitions at the beginning of the book, which is antique is something rare and valued, or the second definition is old, washed up.
Yeah.
And I think that we look at our older population as old and washed up. We just want to put them in a home. And yet the wisdom that they've acquired from the crises that they've been through that's why I was so happy to work with Lily when I was younger, is a wealth of knowledge that we just don't pay attention to in this society, and it's why we keep making the same darn mistakes.
Yep.
And it blows my mind. I did a lot of things wrong as a kid, but the one thing I did right in high school is that my side job was to work at a convalescent hospital.
Oh, wow.
And obviously I didn't know anything about the physical side of it. So my job was just to go into the rooms and talk to people. And just talk, like you were talking about some of the people on your show, are like 80s and 100, just to talk and hear those stories just reminded me that, someone's already done this. I mean, everything's probably been done before. So why not talk to somebody that did it right and steal that? Or why don't you talk to somebody that admits they did it wrong and don't do that? And I just don't think we do that as a society.
No, we don't. And that's one of the things I used to love as a kid, was going to the VFWs and the American Legion with my father and just talking to these guys and hearing the stories, and just even and I miss those times because when I was younger, the VFW, I would listen to these guys, but with family, like old aunts and uncles, I a lot of times I would just ignore it, and I kick myself in the ass every day because I wish I would have listened. Thank God my sister listened, so she knows the stories and the history.
That's great.
But it's like, oh God, I miss out on so much. And I think people today, especially the younger generations, just need to sit down with the older people and talk to them and find out what they've done, what they're, all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, we've told them they don't have to, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
And I mean the way that we market to them. This whole thing about commenting. This didn't start on social media. You remember, this started on businesses. Businesses would say, leave a comment. And they'd never read these comments, but they'd make you feel like you had skin in the game. So we've done this to our youth so often, and especially with social media, all this commentary, that they now equate opinion with fact. So why on earth do they need to talk to someone who's 90 when they already know everything? And I see this as a college professor. A lot of students come to college not to learn, but to be told that they're already right. And I'm seeing that now in the last 3 years. It's something I've been here for 21 years. So this is not a gradual thing. This came out of COVID. This came out of how we treated youth during COVID, how we babied them and infantized them. And I'm lucky that the students that want to come into my class already know that I'm a tough SOB, so they come ready to work. So I don't have those problems, but I see that across the university in the population.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of that, one of the most powerful ideas in your book is the difference between value and worth.
Yeah.
So why was that distinction so important for you to explore?
Because I'm going through it myself. You know, we talked about that before. You know, this is, you know, I've always jumped through hoops. That's
Right.
the way that I work, unfortunately. And so I went and I got tenure early, and then I got associate professor early, full professor early, and then I went up for every award that the university could give, and I got them all real young. And so I sort of run out of things that I can go up for. And so I'm struggling with what my worth is, because I know what my value is, right?
Yeah.
I see my CV. But the problem with all of those things, what I've learned, is that they are like heroin. They give you this big pop at the, not that I've tried heroin, but I assume, right? Mom, if you're listening, I have not done heroin. All right, you have to jump off a bridge. But it's a huge pop when you win that award, and it lasts for about 8 hours, and then it's done, and you feel lower afterwards because you got to fill that hole. Mm-hmm. And I've been doing that my whole life. And so, and it's caught up to me physically, you know, in my high blood pressure. And it's made me have to, I think my body was telling me things that my mind didn't grasp yet.
Okay.
And so I'm in that battle between worth and value. And also, as I do look forward to retiring, which I'd like to do in either 2 or 4 years, I can retire from the university and, relatively comfortably. I'll do it in 2 if I sell my second book. If I don't, I'll stay 4 years. That's just what I'll do. But then I'll write then. So I'm facing a life without being a professor where every student looks up to you. And students come specifically to this university because they think that I can help them to the next level, which is a great honor.
Yeah.
So without that constant honor, what am I? And so I've got to find my worth before I retire, because it already makes me anxious, without students, without having 20 students every semester running to class to have class with me. It's an honor. And of course, honestly, it's an ego boost, Rich, to have that many young people think that I can help them is an ego thing.
Yeah.
So that's where it is. It's something that I'm battling myself.
Seth, I have a funny feeling when you retire, you're going to be busier than you are now.
Yeah. Yeah, I probably am.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I agree with you completely. I think that we have a misconception of what retirement means. Retirement means you leave the job you're in.
Yes.
It doesn't mean you stop.
Yeah, you just don't go home and sit in the recliner and watch TV every day.
No. And I think even just traveling at some point is not enough. I think that the musculature of our minds has been built up, especially people that have worked. You know, I have friends that retired much earlier than me, and good on them, those lucky bastards, right? But it's not going to be for me. But, my dad worked until he was in his early 70s. And so his mind was so facile and filled with, he was a doctor with so much information that he probably should have worked afterwards in another thing. And he did a lot of traveling. He loved it, and he loved that life because he'd worked so hard. But I think he might even be happier now if he had taught afterwards, maybe just one class a week. Mm-hmm. It's like having a Ferrari that you don't drive.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a lot of sense. You still got to drive your mind. And my mother still works, and she's pushing 80, and she still works as a therapist, and she has groups. And I think that's what keeps her facile enough to annoy me all the time. Which because that's also part of her job, and she does it extraordinarily well.
I don't think, I don't want to say I don't think, I don't want to ever retire. And I've said it a million times, I'll be 100 years old and I'll still be doing this. Yeah. When you love something, you just keep doing it. But now I think you found a new love in writing,
Yeah, I'll do it forever. I will do it as they're putting me in the coffin. I'm going to write on the back of the coffin. I'm going to keep doing it.
Somebody's phone rings. Hey, it's Seth. I'm in here. Can you bring me a new pen?
Right. Bring me my pen's out. I'm dead, and so's my pen.
Oh, jeez. All right. So with the antique, when the thought first came to your mind, to the point when it became published? What was that time frame?
Okay, so it came to my mind probably in, well, I know it took me a year from writing it to selling it. It took researching it was December. So it took a year and 5 months.
Okay.
From the point where I started researching it. So probably 2 years.
2 years. Okay.
2 years. Yeah. Writing it to sell. Well, and then there was, so just until I got it sold or until I got it published?
Till you got it published.
Published. Okay. So published. So I'd say 3.5 years.
Okay.
3.5 years, because the publishing was another year and a half.
All right. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit, because I want aspiring authors to hear your journey as an author. But I want to hear more about the book first. So tell us about the book, the characters, and how you came up with them.
Sure. You want to hear like the 2-minute story of it, basic?
However long
pitch?
You want to take, man.
Okay. We'll do the pitch first. So the pitch is, for those of us like you and I who've watched Antiques Roadshow a lot, people come and they bring these incredible heirlooms to them, and these geniuses tell them what it's worth. The people are always asking, what is this worth? But we know that they're really asking, what am I worth? Mm-hmm. And Grace Schaefer, who's our hero, has lost the answer to that question. She's one of the primary appraisers on Antiques Roadshow, loves her job, adores her husband. He's the host of it. He's very outgoing and debonair. Unfortunately, he adores his young assistant a little too much. They have an affair, and the humiliation forces her off the show. So she's galloping apace towards 50 without her job, without her husband, and without her father who's passed. And he was her North Star. He was a bigwig in art history, and he was head of art history at Columbia, and she was just getting to the point in her life where she could talk to him as an equal, and the only way he can communicate is through art. So the only way she could talk to him was through art, and she's finally at that point professionally, and he passes. And she's left with a mother that mystifies her, as mothers sometimes do. And so she crawls off the mat at some regional Antiques Roadshow in the middle of nowhere. They have these minor leaguers all over the country, and she finds this old beat-up necklace that she actually takes from someone. She buys it off of them, which she's not supposed to do, because there's something about it that she's drawn to, and the people are trying to sell it. And when she wears it, she can't tell people that someone's beat-up book is only worth $5. She tells them it's worth $5,000. And she's terrified she's going to get fired, because when they go to market, it's not going to sell for that. But when the people take it to auction, it sells for exactly that amount of money. So this object that she's wearing is some kind of ancient force that, mixed with her, allows her, as the two of them together grow together, to set the price of things based on what it means to the family, not what it means to the market. This makes her famous again, puts her right back on Antiques Roadshow and on the path of her holy grail. And every antiquer has that one piece that's been lost to time, that they've been looking for their whole life, that they think is going to crest them. And she gets back on the track of this painting that's been lost for 120 years, and it's something she talked about with her father, so it's a way to communicate with him. But the question is she trying to answer that question of what I'm worth in the wrong direction? What is it worth, and what am I worth? And that's the piece.
Okay, it almost sounds to me like this is and correct me if I'm wrong, so I'm hearing history, like a historical fiction. Mm-hmm. I'm hearing magic. Mm-hmm. I'm hearing some romance.
Yeah.
And I'm also hearing some self-help.
Yeah, there is. It's self-discovery, right? It's a resuscitation story.
Okay.
Right? It's about someone who's professionally and emotionally dead. Mm-hmm. She doesn't know what to do anymore. She's on the ground and she's looking up, and everything looks dark to her, and she doesn't know how to take a step. And so it's about how we can find that from looking within ourselves, yes. But I think the first step is looking outside of ourselves. And she has this magical piece that she can commune with. But in her process, she also looks to an older gentleman as a mentor. Mm-hmm. We've talked about that already, about that need. She creates new friends. She finds herself by looking outside of herself first, And then once she's comfortable there inside herself, which is sort of the reverse of what you hear a lot. People say, well, you got to be comfortable with yourself before you can come. Well, I think for her, it's a different story because I think she doesn't even know what she is.
Yeah.
She has to see herself reflected in the eyes of another person. So it really is a resuscitation story.
Was there any of yourself hidden in Grace?
Yes, all of it.
Really? Okay.
All of it. I because I'm an actor and I've spent my whole life acting, everything I write is me. In fact, every character in the book has a part of me. Now, it may be a tiny part of me. A tiny part of me. So her husband's drive and his need to be in the spotlight is me.
Okay.
Right? I think the only character that I'm not, and I'm in Grace's father, who's, again, very driven and can be very cold about it and sometimes only speaks in these terms. The only character I'm not is Grace's mother. And Grace goes through the whole piece discovering about her mother as well. Her mother to her is a cipher, but she learns that her mother is much richer. That Grace is not looking correctly at the painting that her mother is.
Yeah.
She's not looking at the color. She's looking past it. And her mother is not me. That's the only character, and she's a major character. She's a compilation, Rich, of my mother and the women on my mother's side of the family. Specifically, my mother's mother, who I actually never got to meet. She died before I was born. And so there's a mystery to Grace's mom. And that's because I never got to meet my grandmother. She died less than a year before I was born.
Wow. Okay. And as we get older, I think a lot of us, we start looking at our parents and our grandparents and differently.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
It's in phases, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's in phases. You know, we worship them when we're young. Then we get older and they fall off that pedestal hard sometimes. And then they kind of climb back up a little bit, you know, as we sort our stuff out, you know, as we get older and stop trying to project things on top of them.
Right.
I've done that with my parents as well.
Was that something you were intentionally exploring through Grace's journey?
I don't, and I hope I don't sound stupid by saying this, I don't intentionally explore anything specifically.
Okay.
I have an idea and sort of a gestalt about what the thing is. It's more like hearing music before I write, so it's fuzzy. I don't really know what I'm exploring until I write into it.
Okay.
I outline like crazy, Rich. I mean, it takes me a month to outline, and I have probably a 30-page idea document which just has ideas and philosophies and like you're talking about now, you know, concepts that I might want to look at during the piece.
Right.
So yeah, that is in there, but I don't use all of them, and I don't look back at it when I write. It's just a way to free form before I write, and names of characters and aspects of characters, and then I have a character outline of every major character. So it's those probably 2 pages on each character, and it's what does she want, what does she need, what's stopping her from getting both, when does want and need cross in the middle, what is the climax of want, what's the climax of need, what is she terrified of, what is she attracted to, what is she revolted by, what is her history, a little paragraph on history, you know, so I do that for every character, and then I do basic outlines, which are a lot like Hero of a Thousand Faces, Joseph Campbell, which is those mythological. Because I believe in myth, I believe in the human myth, and I believe in the collective unconscious, and that I want to tap into that in the reader. I don't want to write for specific groups. I want to write for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like to tribalize art, and I think that a lot of people today do that. They just write for people that look and talk exactly like them.
Yeah.
And so it's a very general outline, and then I have a step outline of every single scene chapter in the book, and it's like a little paragraph on every, and that's about 50 pages long.
Wow.
So I do that. So I have a lot of firm, it just gives me the confidence, Rich, to improvise, because improvisation scares me, but it's what we do, like what you're doing now with me. And you've prepped, but you can't perform your prep, and you can't write your prep, but the prep is in you. And in improvising, if you don't use it, then you didn't need it.
That's
but
true.
You still
yeah.
But I still think you have to write it down. You can't start from nothing. Some writers can. I can't do that. Stephen King can do that. He doesn't outline. But I
didn't
revere him.
realize that.
He's only outlined 2 or 3, and he hates all 3 that he's outlined, and they're 3 of my favorite books of his. So if I could ever talk to him, I would say, Stevie, your outlining's great. I don't know why you don't like it. I think he doesn't like it because he likes to go to mystical places, and so do I.
Yeah.
When you improvise, you're going to this subconscious place. I think that's why he got caught on drugs and alcohol, because it takes you to that place.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow. All right, so with Grace, what was actually the hardest scene for you to write involving her?
That's a great question, man. My hardest scene with Grace is how she says goodbye at the end of the book, because it was such an enjoyable experience to write that first draft that it was very emotional for me to say goodbye to it.
Wow.
Very emotional to me. I cried like a 2-year-old. It was rough to finish that first draft. And I didn't put it off, but it was very difficult to write. Not difficult to get the words down, but it just felt tough to do, because I was saying goodbye to a character. Rewrites are lovely, but they're not the first draft. You don't transform in a rewrite.
No.
It's really, you're cutting and shaping and adding, and it's more like surgery. It's not like song.
Yeah.
And that, that first draft, a lot of people hate the first draft. I really overwrite. I mean, the first draft of Antique was 460 pages. It's 360 now.
How many did you say at first?
It was 460, my first draft.
Okay.
And it's 368, but I added a ton with my editor and my own. So probably in the end, I cut 200 pages out of that, because I also added 100 pages. So my first draft of Harmony, my second book that I'm working on now, was 568 pages.
See, I think that's why books need to have an uncut version like you have with movies.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, someone can read the first one, and if they really love it, wouldn't they like to see extra scenes? And some authors do that, Rich, there's a scene that they love, they just throw it in another book. I've seen that.
Yeah. In another book.
You're like reading it, you're like, and they'll say, well, this was something I was working on in my former book, and I really loved it. It's like, hey, it worked, so great, use it. And, musicians do that too.
Oh, yeah. All right, so what was for you, what was the best part of the book to write?
For me, the best would be the most exciting scenes, and those would be the auction sequences.
Okay.
There are 3 major auctions in there. There's Skinner's Massachusetts, Skinner's Boston. So Skinner's Boston is the bigger one, and then there's Sotheby's, and there's an auctioneer at Sotheby's. You can see on YouTube, if anyone's interested. Go to YouTube and look at their auctions. People are paying millions and hundreds of millions of dollars. Oh, it's unbelievable, and they don't have the money. I don't know how these people can do it. The main auctioneer is a Brit, and this guy looks like the Nightmare Before Christmas guy, Jack. Whatever his name.
Yeah, the skeleton.
Yeah, he has these long arms. He's tall, and he leans over that lectern, and the way his body moves, it's like a spider, and he uses humor, but he also pushes people all the time, and I really tried to distill him into the book. So writing him was a lot of fun.
Okay.
If he gets a number to the right, he'll look to the left and he'll say, "They're against you, sir." Not, "Do you have another thing?" They're against you. He puts people in battle, and those were the scenes that were the most fun to write. Just to write those battle sequences back and forth, and people that don't have the money and yet they do it anyways, and so those are my favorite scenes.
So, what are you hoping that readers get from this after they finish it?
I hope they get what I got out of writing that first draft. That's my ultimate hope, was that someone would leave this seeing their own worth grow a little bit, and maybe looking at someone in their life differently. Mostly themselves. I mean, I'd love for them to leave the book and say, hey, I got something else to give.
Yeah.
Especially for somebody who's 40 and up. If it's younger than 40, I'd love somebody to come away thinking, I need to look closer at my parents. I need to look closer at my grandparents. I need to learn about my great-grandparents. That would be the thing that I'd love. And I'd love them to be transported. I'd love them to put that book down and say, I went somewhere that was exciting and was pleasurable and was positive in a world where there's very little of it. That would please me.
That's what makes a good author. When you're painting that picture for people.
Yeah.
I love that. You're listening to Conversations with Rich Bennett. We'll be right back.
The Harford County Health Department can help eligible pregnant women and children with low to average incomes get free health insurance through the Maryland Children's Health Program. Call 410-877-1040. That's 410-877-1040.
I want to get into some other parts about, the agent and all that, but a couple questions I have to ask you first before we get there. Number one, you have something in your book I've never seen anybody else do, and I love it. At the very end, you have a reading group guide. Mm-hmm. What made you decide to do that?
Well, I'm not going to take credit for that.
Okay.
That was something that my publisher did.
Really? I've never seen that
so
before.
That's something that Grand Central did. Just so people could sit in, like book clubs and spur conversation, because they really want this to get to book clubs. So now they did ask me to, once they had the questions, if I liked them or if I didn't like them. So there were a few that I didn't like that we threw out, and a few that I fiddled with a little bit. But I'd say at least 75 to 85% of that is their text.
I love it. That's a great idea. And who is it that created the cover? Because that is an awesome cover.
I'm going to forget the name of them. I put them in the acknowledgments at the end.
Okay.
I was able to, and one of the exciting things about being a novelist is that they let you choose the artist.
Right.
And so they give you a choice of like 3 to 5, and I gave them my top 3, and I think this was within my top 3, this person. And they let me give them ideas about what I wanted on the cover. And I wanted an attic, and I wanted a window, and I wanted stars in that window, because stars are so important in the piece. And there's a single star in there, which people will not understand until the second to last chapter. And I wanted items in there that people could see in the book. So when they closed the cover, they could keep seeing things that they'd read about as they went through. I think there are about 4 items on the cover on that. And so I gave them those notes, and then the artist came back to me with a couple rounds on it, and it was
wow.
That was very exciting to see that develop and talk about colors and everything. But a lot of people are responding to the cover, which is great. I mean, it's so important to get somebody to turn the thing over and look at the reviews.
Well, yeah, and the old saying was, "Never judge a book by the cover," but it's the cover that's going to make people pull that book. Yes, it does.
Correct.
Very much so. And it's amazing. I love it. All right. So before we start it, before we get in that, tell everybody why they need to purchase this book.
Why they need it? It's a good question. Well, I think this goes back to what we were just talking about, which is that people need it because we go through the day, this society today, being faced with things that make our self-confidence seep out of us. It's like osmotic. We get on the road and everybody's yelling at us. We're either too fast or we're too slow. We're judged by what car we drive. We're judged by where we live. Our sense of value is so challenged throughout the day. And then we get home, and I'm not a big social media person, but for people that are huge on social media, it's really difficult because if you go on Facebook, you see all these people and you see these incredible lives that they're having. And of course, you're only seeing what they want you to see. So they're not having the lives you think they're. But it's still, for so many people, they just feel left out. And I think this book leaves you in. I think this book returns you to yourself. I think people that are able to read it and go through the journey that Grace goes through are going to feel a greater sense of worth when they finish the book. And I think they're going to have a greater sense of the beauty of history around them that they don't even see. And that history could be in their partner. That history could be in their parents or their grandparents, or in, when they go travel somewhere. I think the book puts you in better contact with what really matters.
Right.
And that's why I think people should buy it.
All right. So with writing this compared to, because you're also a playwright, how much of a difference was it? Or did actually being a playwright help a lot?
Yeah, at first I thought it would be a huge difference, Rich, because obviously plays, the action of a play is the text. Right? It's the dialogue. The action of the film is really visual. And yeah, dialogue plays a huge part in that, but really it is the visual is what's going to move film. It's moving pictures, right? For novel writing, it's different because what moves the story forward is your ability, as you were saying earlier, to have the reader painted in their head. Yeah. So there is a meditative quality to it, and that does not exist in plays, because in plays the actor emotes. The reader emotes in novel writing. So creating that space for them to do that instead of showing them that is very difficult. And that was the balance point that, and I had to work that out in my first mess of a novel. But to learn how to do that and how to create that in the reader's mind. Obviously in playwriting also, unless you're George Bernard Shaw, you don't write a lot of set, right? But in film you do. In film you really want to know what the place looks like, especially if you're in independent film and you're going to film your screenplay. But I think my background in playwriting and in directing plays and film helped tremendously, and so did my acting, because when I write dialogue, I act it out. And I act it out so it sounds natural. So hopefully my dialogue rings naturally to people, and that's my acting training coming in. My playwriting works because of writing dialogue again. So both of those work together. But also my playwriting structure helps for this. Screenplays or directing film helps, and directing stage, because when you're directing the action, and you're directing the eyes of the audience to track the action the way that you want it, by the way you set up the shot, or the way you move your actors on an outdoor stage, right? In a stage, it's so diffuse. In some respects, my experience as a stage director was better than the film director, because an audience can look anywhere on stage. So to be able to shape that action so their eyes track it is what I used when I was writing action sequences in the piece. So once I stopped worrying, as Kubrick says, and learn to love the bomb. That's the title of Dr. Strangelove. Well, once I gave into that, everything came together like decathlete, actually. And I felt like a decathlete, and everything was sort of synthesized together.
All right. So since you have written films, plays, everything else, any plans on turning this into one?
Well, my agent would love to see this turned into a movie or a TV show, we think. Okay. But usually it's got to be out for a while. Right. And you got to get the right people to read it. And usually that he was saying that he wants to wait until it's paperback. My paperback comes out February 3rd. Okay. And I think that's when he'll start looking into it. It's such an internalized piece that makes it difficult. There's some books that just don't translate well. Crime dramas do a really good job. Horror does a good job because they're usually not internalized. I think the genius of the Shining movie, it's really not the book. Both of them are incredible works of art. Yeah. Like Kubrick's film is incredible, and I love Stephen King's book. I do not like the other adaptations of Stephen King's book because the book is internalized. It's so internalized, that's where the horror is. I mean, the book is really about a man fighting with alcoholism and the destruction of the family. The film is about violence. The film is about the violence inherent in all of us.
Yeah.
And so they're very different stories, the two of them. So it's tough for a book that's internalized to really work well, unless some producer's just trying to make money off it. Harry Potter is not internalized. It's all magic and externalized, and we see everything. It's like, and we know what that story is. So it works beautifully on film, gorgeously on film. But I don't know how. I think my second book works better on film.
Okay.
And I think my third book that I'm about 80 pages into over the summer, because I have to do 3 things at once like an idiot. But because I'm doing final touches on Harmony, my second book, and I'm doing this book tour for Antique, and I'm working on Puzzling, which is my third book. But that one is really that's a thriller. That's a horror / thriller, and that one is definitely a film.
Antique, Harmony, and what's the third?
Puzzling.
And Puzzling. It's all got like themes of art.
Yeah, it does. Well, probably because I spent my life in it, right?
Well,
so
that's true.
I will say my fourth is called Artificial, which I think could be art as well. Some art is artificial. So you're right.
Well, what's the first 3 letters?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point.
All right, so you've done something that a lot of authors, aspiring authors, even some authors that have been around for a while don't even have. You got an agent first. Walk us through that.
Yeah, so my first crack on agents was not great.
Right.
Because I had this first thing that I had written, and I thought it was great. I've learned that it isn't, but I thought it was great. And I sent it out on, I send it to agents, and there are a lot of services online that people can find. I was on, it's like Query Manager or something. It's Query something or other that I used. It was a few years ago, and you get to query agents directly through it. So have people, if people are listening to this who are interested in this, Query Manager is the way that you track it. It's Query something else. But if you go to Query Manager, you'll see how to get in. And it's an online site, and you write your pitch, and the agents that are actively looking for clients are on it, and you can pitch directly to them, and you can send stuff directly to these agents. It's an incredible thing. I can't remember how much it costs per year, but it's not outrageous.
Right.
And some agents ask for 5 pages. So you got to have a bunch of things ready, right? So first I got that document ready. I looked and I saw what people wanted. So I was ready to go because, once an agent posts that I'm looking, they're going to get a million submissions. Mm-hmm. And so you got to be early on that. So you've got to have all your ducks in a row first. You can't fiddle through this. So, you go on the site, you look for what agents are looking for. And then you're going to want to here's a trick for everybody. You research the agent before you send to them.
Yes.
And you just look them up online. You don't just say, hello, here's my book. Do you want to read it? Here's my pitch. And your pitch, I think, is 1 page. And then you got to tell them what it's like. What are the similar books that it's like? And then you got to give them your 1 sentence. I think it's like a 1 sentence, a 3 sentence. And then you got to give them 5 or 10 pages or something. And then they'll respond. And they'll say, I want to see more, or they won't.
Right.
I always made sure in my first line, I acknowledged something that I'd found about them that I was familiar with.
Smart.
Just one thing. So if they love dogs, I talked about dogs, or just made a joke about dogs. I mean, you don't have to have the same thing that they have, but acknowledge that you've researched them, because that means something to the agent. The agent says, "Oh, this is somebody that does their homework." It's not that the agent's an egomaniac and needs to see that they love dogs. Yeah. They know they love dogs, And don't say, because you love dogs, I love dogs, read my book. If your book's about a dog, you say, because you love dogs so much, I got a dog you're going to adore. boom,
Right.
and then you go, right? But you can say, as a fellow dog lover, we have similar sensibilities, and so I thought you might enjoy this, but you're going to have to find an artful way to do that. And I spend time on my query letters. And I checked them with friends, just as I would a book. I mean, I workshopped my query letters as much as I could with people that weren't in the business
Right.
to say, is this something you'd want to read? And I have a mentor. My writing mentor is in Los Angeles. It's Joel Zwick. Joel Zwick is a very famous director and writer. He was the director of Laverne and Shirley and Happy Days and Mork and Mindy and Bosom Buddies. He discovered Tom Hanks. They're still best friends. And he directed Big Fat Greek Wedding. So he's not in the business anymore. He's retired. He does theater now, just theater. But he's read everything I've ever written since 1998. He's a god to me, this man.
Wow.
And so I sent it to him, and he gave me, because he loves to give notes, 1,000,000 notes on, 6 pages of stuff. So that's something that's I would tell every writer to do that, and that's the way to get an agent. What I found, Rich, is that I sent out to 106, and I got 106 rejections. Here's why it was good news. After the first. And you don't send to 100. You send to 10 at a time. Because if somebody says they want to read it, they usually say, I'm going to read it, but I don't want you sending it to anybody else. You have to respect that.
Right.
So if you send to 100 and then 3 come back to you, don't be an ass. Because if you send to 3 and they talk to each other, you're dead. It just looks like you're blanketing people. So it's okay. Take your time. Your book isn't going anywhere. Right? And if you're that desperate for money, you better have a job that's paying you.
Yes.
Because that's because they can smell that kind of pressure, Rich, on us.
Yeah.
They can smell it. Especially if you're going to meet with them on Zoom. Oh my God. It's like, I hate chorus line. That whole God, I hope I get it is so revolting to me. It's like, just relax. But so I workshop all that stuff. So the first 5 is no problem, because I'm like, well, I sent to 10. It's no problem.
Yeah.
Then you get to 10 and nobody, they responded. They all said, I'd say 5 said, love the writing. 3 said, love the writing, and I want to see what you write next. And the other said, sorry, not my thing. But they all responded.
Yeah.
And I thought, this industry is so different.
Oh, yeah.
I was really impressed. And I'm going to tell you something. Out of 106 rejections, I'd say I got written responses from over 80.
Wow.
Over 80 would at least write a sentence. And they don't have to do that. On that site, all they have to do is say no.
Yeah.
It comes to their inbox, and all they have to do is say pass. And for, 80% to at least gives a response.
That's good.
Told me 2 things. First of all, these are actually really artistic people that are looking for new writers. Mm-hmm. And that's not true in Hollywood. Well, they are. They're looking for what's new and shiny, but they're not looking for writers. They're looking for what already sells. I mean, Hollywood looks for what already sells, right? And theater right now is such a mess because it's all tourist. It's tourist generated on Broadway. So they're not looking for the next, right, O'Neill. They're just not. And so I found that really incredible. I also had so many people say, I want to see your second, that it gave me an incredible amount of confidence that I'm in the right direction. And a lot of them treated me as if I'd already written a bunch of books. One person wrote back, yeah, you're a great writer, but this just isn't my story. It's like, no, I don't know I'm a great writer. So thank you for telling me. So I wrote them back. Wow. I'm like, I had no idea. So I really appreciate that. They're like, get off yourself. Of course you are. That was like old school New York. I love that. It's like, no, you are. We're not even going to talk about you being good because you already know you are. Which is like, I just love that. So when I got to 20, it was a little depressing because it's like, nobody wants to read it. I think I'd sent it to 1 or 2 people by 20, but they passed.
Right.
And said they wanted to see the next thing. Then when you got to 30, I started laughing and relaxing because I thought, I'm just going to get rejected by everybody. But I kept sending it out.
Didn't give up.
I kept sending it out. I just said, then you just keep sending it out. And there was that voice in me that said, dude, this ain't it.
Yeah.
You have a job that's great. You can go do a show off Broadway. Right? I mean, you have that. You can go direct a play at a Shakespeare festival. You can act in front of 1,000 people outside. You don't have to do this, man. And I just thought, you don't give up. You don't give up if it's in your heart.
Yeah.
Right? You don't do that. Life is short. And I always say, and it's a little maudlin, what do you want to look back on? In that last moment, what do you want to see? What's your last view of your life?
Ooh.
Right? And I said, I want to be a writer. And I have enough there that I think I shouldn't be it on my first book. My God, I think it took 3 books for Stephen King to get his first one sold, Carrie. I think he'd already written 2 others before that. He'd written tons of stuff before that.
Right.
And he'd been paid like $30 for a short story, So people struggle. You're not going to get it off the first thing. That's the other thing for young writers to understand, or anybody at our age starting out. You're not going to get it at first. My God, I mean, doctors are going to spend 12 years before they can operate on you, and you think you're just going to get it because you deserved it. So luckily I have that mindset, so I went through 106. I just started laughing at the end. I stopped checking every day. And like every 3 days I check, I'm like, somebody else rejected me. That got filed. But what I did, Rich, and I do tell all writers to do this, get an Excel sheet and write the name of the person and write what your shtick was. What was the thing, dogs, right, that you put in that line, and what did they say? Did they just pass? Then you don't have to go back to them again. Did they say, like the writing, not the story? Did they say, like the story, not the writing? Did they say, I only do horror? So when your second book comes out, you look down that list, and those are the people that you can go after. So it's giving you actionable things. You're learning. You're moving towards it. No, you didn't sell it, but you're closer to selling.
Yes.
And that's the way to do it. And then I was very lucky because I was actually working with an editor on how to improve my query letters. And he was an agent. And so I had already built a relationship with him because we were working together on my query letter. And so I pitched him Antique, and he said, let me read it. And he read it, and he says, I want to represent you. So that was a totally different avenue.
Yeah.
And he said to me, he's like, well, he said, but I think this is good enough. You can go to try other agents if you want. There's a lot that wanted you, because I had shown him my Excel sheet. He's like, there's a lot that want your second book, but I really believe in it. And I believe you don't turn away from that kind of confidence in your work. If somebody really wants to work with you, and I talked to a lot of people at the university who were writers, and they all said, if all these people want to see your second book, why are you going with the first person that comes back to you? It's because he was so passionate about it, and I clicked with him when I met with him, and he's been fabulous. I couldn't imagine a better agent for that book, or for me, as long as he wants to agent.
Yeah.
And who knows, he could change, I could change, but I really lucked out with him.
And this came out in February?
Yeah, it came out in February. The hardcover came out in February 3rd.
Hardcover.
So I've been out for 6 months.
Oh, God.
Wait, February, March, April. Sorry, 4 months. I've been out for 4 months.
What are we in? Oh, we're June. Okay, yeah. June 3rd. Jeez.
Yeah.
I record so much every day. I lose track of the dates and all.
Yeah.
So especially as a first-time author, what's been the biggest struggle for you so far?
Selling the book.
Yeah. Okay.
I tell you, this was really tough for me to understand because it was my first go around. And so I spoke to all these writers at the university, but none of them had been with a Big Five publisher in fiction. So they said, oh, you're with a Big Five, right? You're with Grand Central Hachette. Wow, it's one of the Big Five. You don't have to do anything. They're going to do everything. And they have a great marketing office, and they have a publicist and all that stuff. So they have that, right? So I'm new, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to just let them do it. It's not enough.
No.
They put me on all the sheets of the books that went out February 3rd, which is fabulous. I'm on the Hachette sheet. Unfortunately, they went out with 8 books that day, and one of them was Ken Follett. So I'm going to buy Ken Follett over Panitch, and I'm Seth Panitch. I was competing, with someone's eyes. They're looking at like best-selling authors, and then this schmuck at the bottom has never done anything before. So that's what they do for you.
Yeah.
And that's not enough.
No.
And so about a month in, I realized that what they had done was not enough. And so I hired my own publicist, and I used my advance for that. and I used my advance for travel. And I traveled to Los Angeles, and I did a bunch of events there. I've done like 5 events in Alabama, 1 in Georgia, 4 in Tennessee. I've done, I think, like 16, 17 events, and I still have 4 left. I'm going to be flying to Washington State because I've got 3 in Washington State. And I have 1 in Dallas coming up. I have a few in Mississippi, and a few more in Alabama. So, and that costs money.
Yeah,
and so, you get that advance. You're like, oh, I'm going to use this advance so I can retire early. No, don't be dumb. When you get that advance, use it for a publicist. Use it. And next time I'll hire a marketer too.
Yeah.
I'll hire a marketer too, because they put it in stores. So they put it in stores, but they don't really push it.
That's
right?
true. Yeah.
And I think it's because they don't have to. Hachette has Ken Follett. So what I think their mindset is let's just see what Panitch can do. We don't want to spend money on that.
Right.
Because that's money we could keep trying to find a new writer that's just going to do it on their own. And it's not an evil thing. It's the necessaries of business. It's very expensive to publish a novel. And so what I tell myself is they're a publisher, and what they did for me was publish my novel.
Yeah.
That's their job.
Exactly.
So, and they paid me enough up front for me to hire a great publicist, Darcy Rowan in New York. And she's gotten me into 1 million reviews, and a bunch of great feature articles, and a bunch of a radio all over the country. Like she got me on the BBC version of European radio. So that's what you have to do.
Wow.
Is use your money for a publicist and for travel.
And you're doing something else that I tell authors to do all the time. You're getting on podcasts. That's free marketing.
Yeah.
You can't beat that throughout the world.
Well, there's something else that from my perspective, and you probably already know this from being and having a podcast. The other thing that podcasts do for you, and it reminds you that you're a writer. Yeah. And sometimes if the day is rough and you don't have enough time to write, if you're like me and you have a day job, talking to somebody about your writing is like writing. It's like a half an hour of you having to talk about your process and not just give people a bullshit line, right? I mean, are we really being honest with people and talking about it differently every time, or whatever comes out from who you're talking to? I think it helps you specify what you do, and it's also exciting to talk to somebody about what you do that doesn't know you but knows the art form in ways, because you know writing better than my wife does, and I love talking to my wife about this, but it's just a different experience. Yeah. Talking to a fellow writer about writing is, I think, it just inspires you.
Well, the other thing too, when you're getting on podcasts, you're getting more comfortable speaking in front of people. So when you go to these events, although you already are comfortable because of your background, but for other authors, I think that's why it's important, because you go to events, especially if they want you to read, you got to be comfortable doing that.
Yeah, authors should also take an acting class. Take an acting class.
I like
Take an acting class. Be able to stand up and emotionally connect with text, because when you read your selection, you better be emotional.
Yes.
You have to. And so I would tell all authors to take just one acting class.
That's a good idea. That's smart. That's smart. Well, Seth, is there anything you would like to add before I get to my last question, which you're going to pick, by the way?
I guess what I would add is if people want to, keep in touch with me, during the tour or the next book or when the softcover is coming out, they can follow me on Instagram at Seth Panitch Author. I'm on Facebook, Seth Panitch -author. And those are probably the best ways to keep up with me. The book Antique is in a lot of independent bookstores, but it's also in all the Barnes & Nobles, or they can get it online at Amazon or at barnesandnoble.com.
And what's the website?
SethPanitch.com.
It's PANITCH, people.
Yes, sir.
And
yes, sir.
Those of you listening, you know what I'm going to tell you. I tell you this all the time. After you purchase Antique by Seth Panitch, make sure you leave a full review everywhere that you can leave a review. Not just one place, everywhere that you can. Also, take a photo of yourself holding the book and post it on social media and tag Seth and myself in it as well. And whoever else you want to tag, because that's going to help him. So,
yeah, that's beautiful.
All right.
Rich is absolutely right.
So I need you to pick a number between 1 and 5.
5.
Number 5. All right. Now I need you to pick a number. Oh, nope. That's block 3. Now I got to get to the right block. Block 5. There we are. All right. Now. Okay. So this category, this block is legacy, connection, and the global perspective. So I want to see if you pick one that has to do with what we've been talking about. So pick a number between 81 and 100.
Ooh, 89.
89. Okay. If you could change one thing about how society views success, what would it be?
If I could change one thing about how society views success, what would it be? That it would not be based on how much money is in your bank account.
Bingo.
That would be it.
Bingo.
Yeah, that'd be it.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
I agree with you 110%.
Yeah, just that.
Seth, I want to thank you so much. It's been an honor. And, you got to come back on when the other books come out as well.
I'd love to, Rick, so much. Yeah, I will definitely keep you in a file. You'll be in a file.
Just don't put me in the file 13, the trash can.
No, not the round file. Not the round file.
Thanks, Seth.
You got it, Rich.
As we wrap up, I hope this conversation leaves you thinking about more than just a great book to add to your bookshelves. Seth reminded us that it's never too late to chase a dream, that every chapter of our lives has the potential to become our most meaningful one that our worth can never be measured by awards, titles, or what's in your bank account. It's found in the lives we touch, the stories we share, and the legacy we leave behind. If Antique sounds like the kind of story that speaks to you, and I think it will, do yourself a favor and pick up a copy. And after you've read it, don't stop there. Leave a review wherever you can, everywhere you can, because those reviews truly make a difference for authors. And snap a picture with your book, share it on social media, and tag Seth and myself. You'll not only be supporting a talented author, but you'll also be helping others discover a story that just might change the way they see themselves. And maybe, after listening today, you'll take a little extra time to talk with a parent, a grandparent, or someone whose life experiences have shaped the world around you. You never know what treasure you'll uncover when you take the time to listen. To learn more about Seth Panitch, connect with him online, and grab your copy of Antique, check out the links in the show notes. Until next time, I'm Rich Bennett. Thanks for listening, and remember, every great conversation starts with someone willing to listen and someone willing to share. Now it's your turn. Join the conversation by sharing this episode, leaving a comment, or reaching out to me directly. Take care, be kind to one another, and I'll talk with you again soon.